Hello and welcome to today's YouTube tutorial from Peakboard. Today I want to show you how easy it is to create your individual production data acquisition terminal for your production workers. How this works, I'll show you now. Let's start here on the Peakboard hub. Well, I've already created a Peakboard hub list. The Peakboard hub list contains three columns: the timestamp, which defines the timestamp where the quality report has been done, a state, which defines if it's a good or a bad part, and if it is a bad part, then there's also a rejection reason to see where the problem was. So let's switch over to the Peakboard Designer. Here on the Peakboard Designer, I will start by adding this Peakboard hub list I've showed you. And let's give it a name and call it quality. Click here on load list, select the defined quality reports, and here I click on load data. Now we got this data from the Peakboard hub list. The next thing I want to do is to aggregate all the good parts. For this I click here on process data with a data flow. I call it good because it's about the good parts, and the first thing now I create another data source of the type time, because I need the time now for the calculations which will follow. Let's call it my time, whatever. Click here on OK, and now I click here on quality and process data with a data flow, and here I want to calculate the count of the good parts. So the first thing is to give it a name. Then I just want to have the ones with the state true. And now I do another filter by clicking here on this plus icon, and I click on filter by date time columns. In that case, I just want to have all the reported parts from today. So I check the timestamp, which is defined in my list with year, month, day, hour, minute, second, and I compare it with my created time data source, my time. Also, I ignore the time. That means that I don't care about the time, but just the date. So let's click here on OK, and we've filtered out all the parts from the days before. Let's now click on aggregate. Here I simply create a count of all the parts, which then will be the good parts because we already filtered that out. Click on OK, and here we have the number. Let's click on OK again. Now I add here a rectangle on the top where I want to show my header. I set the corner radius to 0 and place a text on the top part. Let's call it quality control, and center this and set the font to header 1. So I change here the color and set it here. Right now I add here a big green button to report all the good parts. So let's place it here, a big size, and set the text to OK. The border color I will remove by setting the size to 0, and the background I set to green because it's about the good parts. Let's make it a little bit smaller, and then I can just drag the good here and show it as a text. But before that, I also create another rectangle here next to the button to show the good parts in. Let's set the title to good parts and place the number inside of it. So let's put it here and there and center it. Alright, now I will continue by adding the buttons for the bad parts. So again, I first add a rectangle here on the lower left, and here I set the title to reason for rejection. And now I go on by adding 4 buttons. Let's start with the first one and set here again the border color, the font, and the background in this case to red, because now it's a bad part. And the reason for being a bad part is a problem in the material, so I set here the text to material. Let's do this for 3 more buttons. Alright, now we are done with all the buttons and I set the logic for each of them. Let's start with the big green one. So for this I do a double click on it. And inside of the block editor I go to publish to external systems, where I will find Peakboard hub and add row at the end. The rejection reason for the good part is nothing. The state is true, that means that it is a good part, and we take from the time data source the date timestamp. So let's set the format to year, month, day, hour, minute, second. And also after adding a new row, we directly reload this data source to show it directly. Let's click on save, or first copy all the blocks, click on save and go to one of the bad buttons. Here I paste this, set the state to false, and in the first one the problem reason was the material, so I will set this here, copy that one to paste it in all the other bad buttons. So what I want to do now is to show in the button right all the counts of the bad parts. So for each of the bad categories I want to show how often it happened today. So let's go again to process data with a data flow. Again I set a filter, in that case I just want to have the bad parts, and a filter based on the timestamp because I just care about today. So again I set here the time format and I compare it with my time data source. Let's click on OK again, and now I do aggregation, and here I want to show the count for each rejection reasons. Click on OK here, and now we have aggregated it for every single reason. Let's call it here bad. Click on OK and add a last rectangle to the bottom right here. I place it to the correct position and just give it a title again. In that case I call it rejection today. And now I can just drag and drop this bad data flow here and show it as a column chart. Place it to the correct position, and by doing a double click on it I have the possibility to set the visual settings. Let's start from the top. I want to set the primary axis. I will here show no line on the bottom, so I set that 1 to 0. Go to the secondary settings. Here I fully remove the grid lines and also this part on the left. And then I go to the series, where I will set the spacing to a little bit smaller and give it a corner radius. And also the color should be red because it's about the bad parts, and I set this color gradient because it just looks pretty cool. So let's go to the labels and show the label here. Since we removed the part on the left, we need to show the numbers somewhere else, and I changed the font, and that's all what we need to do. So now let's click here on the preview and let the magic happen. Alright, and now you can see we are done with the application for today. When I click on OK, the good parts are counting up. When I click on one of the reasons for the rejection, then we see the number of rejections today. So if something is happening, let's say in the drilling, then we directly can see maybe we need to do something here in the process. That's it for today. Thanks for watching and see you next time.